Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
Taxing capital gains properly or corporate profits properly.
Sure, you have something that there's a reason that we should be taxing more here, there.
It's
The point is that the reason why families are having...
You bring in more revenue to have women be mothers?
What I'm saying is that you are just creating a cyclical argument. You're basically saying that women want to be able to have it all. Women cannot have it all because the government...
choice to do what they like.
Okay, but you're saying women should have the choice to have it all.
Care.
Okay, so you're saying...
Really not only does she not care, he says a word and she responds, she hooks immediately onto that argument. She's willing to follow him on...
way of putting like, what you have it all right now where you're working and you're also a mother? Is that having it all?
I'm saying that it's not possible for women to have it all. It isn't possible.
Okay,
and that's one of
whatever that is what I would want other women to have as well, which is the flexibility to work a job and also raise kids if they'd like.
No, but that's exactly. You guys keep arguing that what people want is more flexibility.
I'm just pointing out, when people get really mad at people cutting them off and then they make a huge song and dance about it, they do a huge show about it, it's because they feel like they can't respond to the point and they want to go to the meta conversation, just focus on that so that they can avoid the actual discussion.
So you're acknowledging that right now, with feminism on fire.
Why is that though? My dumb brain thinks it's just because this guy is a man and Jasmine is a woman. No, it has nothing. It's not a gender thing. It's because she feels like she can hang with all of his arguments. So she's like flowing from one to the next to the next. She'll go back and forth. She'll do the back and forth rapid fire, but she's not getting like, she doesn't feel like she's stumbling or she doesn't feel like she's getting stumped on any of these points. But with Jasmine, she felt like she was like outclassed because Jasmine, when she tried to drill on things, Jasmine had answer after answer after answer, and then she was giving substantive answers, and Candace said nothing. And then when Jasmine cut her off, she's like, okay, I can just focus on her behavior here and avoid the actual conversation.
We are agreeing. Women are going into the workforce. Like I'm just kind of using a hyperbolic expression. Feminism is everywhere. We are arguing that women need to have more opportunities. Women need to have more rights. They've taken that. Now you have the majority of people that are graduating with college degrees are in fact women. Men are committing suicide at a higher rate than women. We're looking around the world.
Feminism also would push for like increased awareness of men's mental health.
That's fine. Great. We love feminism. That's great. We already know that. We get it.
Most Americans agree with me, by the way.
Actually,
like women should have paid maternity leave. If you go issue by issue and by values, they might not associate with the term feminism because people like you have made it toxic. But the actual values that undergird feminism
will move the goalpost, and then when they begin taxing so that we can account for paid maternity leave for 3 months, which basically means a small business owner has to not have an employee while having to pay months and months and months. Like the person's not there. They're not actually.
Small business doesn't have the revenue to cover.
But she is getting stomped, no? You can think that. It's not about if she is or isn't losing in your perspective. Obviously, you're going to think everything she says she's getting stomped because that's your perspective. She thinks she's doing really well, and she thinks she has good response to all of these questions. So she's going to continue to pursue, she'll do the back and forth without complaining about getting cut off because she feels like she's in the flow state here.
Not have an employee while having to pay months and months and months. Like the person's not there. They're not actually.
Small business doesn't have the revenue to cover paid maternity leave. The government would probably subsidize them to make up the cost.
No, I actually think that the way things were made more sense, where we had an environment where you could afford to take care of children with just one person bringing in income in the house.
Is that possible in the current environment?
You can obviously.
When things are going to get way more expensive with these tariffs as well. Like it's not going to be easy to afford anything in the coming years.
Is it going to happen overnight? No, but I think we need to be realistic about the fact that the first thing didn't work, right? The entire argument, the first thing was women entering the workforce is going to make everybody happier and richer. That was the
idea is that women having the choice to enter the workforce is better than them being forced to not do that.
Okay.
That's the argument.
Okay, that actually is not the argument at all. The argument was that women would become, and I'm talking about what the feminists got ahead of, and this is why women,
like this imaginary Twitter feminist, but like right now you're talking to me, and that's not the argument.
I'm not actually debating an imaginary Twitter feminist. I'm speaking to you, and I have no idea why you're becoming increasingly more rude when I'm just rebutting your point.
No, you're not responding to my point.
I am responding to your point. I'm saying that you're creating a cyclical argument where you keep saying that the thing that you just did, that you said was going to be enough. What we actually need is for women to just enter the workforce. Oh, women are in the workforce, and actually
not enough. I'm saying we don't have enough.
Okay, and I'm telling you that you're also not going to have enough because you're going to then be complaining when you get that paid maternity leave. Because you're okay. Well, they are arguing for family paid leave, so
that's even better. Yeah.
Okay, so you might.
Do you think fathers should also be around to help raise children?
I think who's going to work if everybody goes home every time a child is born?
Not everyone's going to have a kid at the same time.
Pause. All right.
Everyone will have a male partner. Yeah, nice talking to you as well. My final claim is that feminism has made things easier for men.
Hi, I'm Jenny.
Candace.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You said that feminism is easier for men, or is...
It's made things, I think, easier in society for men. Yeah. Now men don't have to commit, and they're being offered from women for free, so they have to actually effectively do less and be motivated less because feminism has kind of insisted on this culture of sex and hooking up, and I think that has been a net negative for women.
On good faith, I just want to say I think you're approaching this with like the best interest for women. Like you think that is negative for women and harmful, and I think in some aspects we can agree to that. Yeah. I do think that there are some aspects of sex work or OnlyFans or whatnot that maybe men are definitely the huge consumers of. But if we are so concerned with women putting that out for free, it's charged, right? They're making money off of it. Then why are we not putting the onus more on men for being the one that is in control of that demand, right? So we can take away the supply or, condemn it all we want. But if there's no onus on men to be the consumers of said products, then wouldn't you think that would solve the issue that you're bringing up?
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. And I really get to that. I want to be very clear. When I say that I'm anti-feminist, this does not mean that I do not also criticize men. I think that's something that people get very wrong.
Okay.
1000% agree. I believe the problem was seeded by the feminist movement. I think the sex revolution and telling women, literally when people were protesting, they didn't have their shirts on. And this used to be just, your grandparents couldn't even imagine this, like women walking down the street and having their out and their butts out on Instagram. And it created an environment where men then had to work harder for a woman's affection, for a woman to take her clothes off, education in the classroom. There's this huge myth that people were just doing it. Like, we might as well teach them because the children are just doing it. Actually, before they introduced education, the majority of high school graduates were graduating with their virginity intact, and then within 10 years of sex education, we saw a reversal. So I'm saying feminism actually seeded the problem, and now the problem is bad, and it's also bad for men. It's harmful for men to be constantly.
According to the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey, in 1991, 54% of high schools reported having sexual intercourse. That number decreased to 30% by 2021. Wow.
Exposed to pornography and soft pornography, and I think it actually, in many ways, emasculates men.
Okay.
But I would say they are the main social benefactors of that culture because, well, first and foremost, as we're talking about women who have to kind of pick one or the other or try to manage both, and can we have it all? Like, no, you can't have it all. On a day where I really feel like I gave a little bit more to my career, I ache because I go, okay, but like now I feel like I didn't give the same amount to my children.
Then why not just quit your job?
And
We'd all be better off for it.
it's a constant push and pull, and it never feels enough.
No, I'm not
doesn't
kidding,
feel
actually.
enough.
So like, to a degree, I think that feminism does benefit men. I think that it allows men to be more emotionally intelligent, it allows them to understand what that looks like, and also be able to connect with other people, right? But at the same time, there's so much work that feminism has done for women that to say that it benefits men more, I don't think is an accurate statement. For example, Title IX has made it very possible for women to go to college 600% more so, right? And I think that that is a huge benefit that we can credit to the feminist movement. Though I understand your point, though, of trying to say that like work is harmful for women and more beneficial for men because they're benefiting from it the most. But at the same time, if you think they're also suffering from it, does that not contradict your point?
Yeah, so I disagree on the fact that, and we do agree that more women are going to college, more women than men are graduating with college degrees. And despite that, people are saying that we still live under a patriarchy. Women are free to start their own companies. Women are free to pay women whatever they want to pay. Women could hire, and in some cases do hire all women. And so I don't really understand, which wasn't your argument to be fair, the idea that even with all of that freedom, women are still not able to achieve what men are able to achieve. I think college education actually has increased women's stress. And I'm talking about in terms of how expensive it is. And I know you're going to then say, well, the solution to that is we have to then move the goalpost. And I'm guessing
Well,
here.
no, I mean,
but like college
yeah.
should be free. Everything should be free. He thinks,
Well, I think
we just need more free stuff. And obviously nothing's free. We're just going to tax us
if I could
until
interject,
100%.
I just want to say, I think the issue that we keep coming back to is that you believe
Like, it's so stupid that these people will give this as a truism. Like, oh, you're just going to make infinite taxes to fund everything? But their perspective is literally the opposite of that, which is equally retarded. All taxes should be nothing, and we can all take care of ourselves, right? Like, why do this? Obviously, we both, in a reasonable world, will agree that there's some ideal level of taxation to fund, some level of programs. Let's argue over what programs we need, right? Shouldn't that be the discussion?
that women would be happiest in the home where they don't have to work. And I think most people in general probably wouldn't want to work anyways. But I think the main issue that we keep avoiding is that this is not an issue created by feminism. This is an issue created by capitalism.
Yeah, so I've heard this argument that it's an issue created by capitalism.
But you don't agree. You think feminism is the greater issue than the
I
system
think that
needs
now
us
the
to spend more money
issues-
to live.
Well, we have to spend more money to live,
Right.
I think in large part because feminists got duped by the government. And I think
Okay.
we just keep further enslaving ourselves to the government. I'm not a person who believes in big government. And yet
Okay.
you find that feminists are constantly like, well, we can deal with the college issue. We just need more government. We can deal with the, needing to have more benefits. We just need more government. So it's like, okay, let's just tax every household 100%. And I'm trying
I can't. She did the meme. Wow. Okay.
to prevent that. And I'm saying that there was a time in America, and what's aspirational for me is I was, raised in part by my grandparents. They were very happy. They were just, I lived in that environment of what that looked like. And I think for many of people who didn't grow up there, feminism has taught us, and I say this as someone who had to take feminism 101 courses when I was in college, that it was like this nightmare, and people weren't happy, and people were suffering, and women were
suffering.
People, were being forced, and that there weren't.
Was that a requirement for her degree, Feminism 101? I mean, actually, she did a journalism major, so maybe. But she literally did like one of the softest science majors. Yeah, like.
Weren't actually these things that just marriages that work.
Or liberal arts, I should say. I don't know if you call journalism a soft science.
That the women actually weren't disempowered by being the CEOs of their household.
Well, allowing women to have more choice and freedom and agency to leave.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
I did enjoy this conversation. Being very respectful.
Wow, very respectful. Because you let me just yap. Yap.
I was thinking that a lot of your claims are very contradictory, saying that we live in a matriarchy, that men benefit from feminism more. I would like to understand why, again, you think that men benefit from feminism more?
Basically, because men don't have to commit to women. Men are still able to do what they're doing, and they are allowed to basically step away from all of the responsibilities of
Yeah, but you're giving more and more arguments why men are the true winners here. So aren't these all arguments for patriarchy?
what it really meant to be a man and lead a household. And that's in large part, I think, due to the sexual revolution.
I mean, is it really bad that we don't have to give men the chase? Don't they have gratification from chasing us? Like, it's a hunter versus prey situation to me. So I feel like a lot of relationships, especially back then, were based on trying to get the home run like very fast. And now that we have the freedom to not commit and not tie ourselves to one man for the rest of our life, I just don't necessarily think that's bad. I just don't think the revolution has decreased our value. We're not chewed gum. We're people who value connection. And sex doesn't always have to have this deep meaning. It is just connection and intimacy between two people who trust each other. And why do we have to deny women that gratification? Like men, you say that are wired to want that. Why not women? Why?
Well, we again, I go back to just our basic biological differences. There was a really interesting book that was done by a biophysicist. He, I think, recently passed away, named Edward O. Wilson, where he just sort of breaks down the biological arguments. Basically, he looks in the wild to see the behavior of animals. His thesis is just that you basically can never beat your own biology. And then he kind of compares it to what we see here as just humans and our social interactions and things that have been abundantly clear when you look at every civilization over time, whether it's from, 400 BC to LA today. What are these habits that you can see that never go away? And people coming together and starting families is one of these things, because we are biologically wired to find a family, to settle down, and to have children. And I think when you have women that are going out and they're giving all of the goods up for free.
The goods?
The goods.
The goods?
I'm not going to say, the goods up for free. Men
what if
are
women
not.
want the goods for free from men, and that we are very actually.
I feel like there's, I'm not going to deny that there are differences between how men and women function in the world, for sure. And there's probably different inclinations to behavior. But that is a very strong statement to say that, like, what can I say? Something like, we can never escape our biology anyway. It's like, well, people have type 1 diabetes and live because they get exogenous insulin. There's a lot of ways that we have escaped parts of our biology, but
You can
happy with
certainly do
those
that. And there's
connections. We're not sockeye salmon. We're not made to breed and have families and then die.
You are welcome to do that. I'm just saying that when it comes time for you to find a partner, you may find yourself in a circumstance where men don't value you as high, because men like you spoke to, men like to compete. They like to feel like they've won something.
I'd like to deprive men of that because they don't need to have that. That's actually
But you did bring up.
Yeah, and that's what you say, that men are, essentially predatory, and we have the goods that we have to keep from them.
Oh, I didn't mean the goods in a bad way.
But that's such an objectifying way. The goods, the grocery goods.
Honestly, I think that that's just kind of
we
in
don't have value
colloquial
in that way. We have value in
songs
our
today.
soul.
I think
we
people,
have value
yeah.
apart from how many people we sleep with. How many you also devalue education for women, and I think that's very interesting because you're also a very educated woman, and in a lot of ways, this is just like an observation. You devalue yourself a lot.
I definitely do not feel like I'm devaluing myself.
Make him a sandwich.
Yeah. Yes. Which is the title of my book.
Yes, feed your men and everything. Feed the people that you love,
As it
because
brings you
family
joy.
isn't defined just by your partner or your kids. Family is community, and you should care about your community. And understanding that, I just don't think you really care about the community that much when you're pushing this rhetoric of devaluing women so much to stay in the kitchen, stay within the homes, and also saying that they're wasting money on college when education is very important. There's a lot of female scientists.
well, why? Why are they voting her out? Why? She barely even got through a thing. I feel like it's haters in the audience. What?
So much
voted
that I
out.
would say.
Why do they? Why? I don't understand why they do that. Or what?
Sorry. You've been voted out.
Oh, because they all want to talk.
Hello.
That's why.
Hi, how are you?
What's your name?
I'm Zola Stone.
Very nice to meet you, Zoe. You have very pretty eyes.
Thank you. So you keep talking about OnlyFans and Kim Kardashian, and well, I do OnlyFans,
Okay.
and I'm a stripper as well.
So you're in the sex industry.
Well, I'm mainly a recording artist, but I do that to fund the music.
Okay.
But you're saying basically that we kind of like devalue ourselves, but at the same time, I'm celibate. I still consider myself a woman of God, and so. Not all of us are just out there just, oh, hey, showing goods, like we do respect our bodies still. So I don't like that you kind of putting us all in one box
Yeah.
because of that.
So we have to, in order to have debates, we have to make generalizations. Of course, there can be some exceptions to the rule. But what I'm trying to understand is, how can you say that you're not, giving up your body if you are a stripper?
Well, because I said I'm celibate. I still want to get married. I still want to have kids. And for some of us, it's hard for us to have kids. And I've also dealt with abuse since a child, so
Oh my God! And she's like all the stereotypes. Like, why?
I wasn't doing any work as a child, and still went through things like that.
Yeah. So I first want to say, perfectly sympathetic to everything you're saying, especially if you come from an environment where you've lived through something when you're a kid. It makes it infinitely harder. And it's actually a reason why so many people turn to sex work, because they don't have that structure at home that gives them, I think, other options. But would you agree with me that if you could, that wouldn't
I
have...
went to college for music production.
For music production.
I went to LA recording school.
Okay, so did you decide to be a stripper because of economic restraint or because of freedom?
For freedom. We want the choice to do whatever we want with our bodies.
Okay.
I don't think it matters if you do want to dress how you want to dress. That doesn't mean, oh, you can sexually abused or sexually harassed.
Okay, do you
or
think
that
men
they're
that are
wearing.
being brought into the strip clubs to watch you, do you think that they're walking away and going, I did that because that woman was empowered to take off her clothes? Or do you think that they're actually devaluing women?
No, I get
when they
it.
do
I
that?
used to be that hypocrite. I said things that I said I would never do anything like that. Like I totally get that. But some people just want to go to the club and have a good time.
Yeah, I think most of the people who are making those decisions are doing it because they're dealing with addictions themselves. I think you're worth more than taking your clothes off. I think that if you wanted to have a career in music, you wouldn't have to take your clothes off to do that. And I think that it's sad that you've been.
Every story is different.
Every story is different, but I do think that
Like if you could bring in the capitalism argument here, like, oh, so like, I shouldn't devalue myself into just showing my body, but what about flipping burgers, or what about being a retail worker, or what about any other number of low skill jobs that you could do that also feel pretty shitty. I mean, you can argue that this is a bit different in category, but Candace would have to make different arguments here to satisfy that.
you can make a generalization.
I
about
was
people
at that
coming.
point where I was going to college. I was working 3 jobs. I used to be a nurse. So you just don't know the situations. You don't know how life is going to turn out. It's going to be ups and downs. But no, I didn't want to do it. But in my situation and things that I went through, it's something that
But I'm
it
actually
works.
really glad that you said, no, I didn't want to do it, and you were put in a situation where you had to do it, because I think that's really honest. And I think
That's true of all work, though, right? That's like 95% of jobs in the United States. People don't want to do them, right?
the problem that I find with feminism is that it's a dishonest movement.
All right, guys, pause. It's been voted out by the majority. Thank you.
I'm not judging.
Nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to meet you,
Catherine.
Catherine, Candace.
You brought up a book about that we are going to biology, and that biology is what we should organize society on based on like what skills men are good at.
I can restate what I said. That there is a book, and the argument that's being made is that you can't outthink your biology, is the easiest way to say it. So feminism, I would say, is a movement where they are trying to outthink biology, meaning that all we have to do is this, and that, and then magically we're going to be transformed. That desire within us to want to start a family is just going to like die, or we're going to be happier doing this thing.
But I mean, isn't the whole reason she's here? Hey, stop! No, you don't need to do that. Isn't the whole reason Candace is here is because she thinks that society has outdone our biology? Like, if in a way, isn't her entire argument kind of self-defeating? Like, I'm out here giving speeches because I think people have made the folly of thinking that society can strip them of their biological, their biological imperatives. And I was like, okay, well, what are you saying? Well, we need to listen to our biological imperatives more. So you're trying to societally or socially influence us to listen to our biological imperatives? Why? Because we're not right now. Well, but isn't your whole argument that we can't ignore them? But you're actually arguing that we're ignoring them too much, and that's the problem. And now you're trying to socially influence us into believing that social influences can't lead. Like, I feel like in a way, her whole thing is a little bit self-defeating, no?
And I think the answer to that is no.
Right. I would argue that our biology does not have as much of an effect on the things that we choose to do with our careers, with our life choices, as you think it does. Our closest ancestors are chimps and bonobos. Bonobos are matriarchal, chimps are patriarchal. So, and our previous societies have run egalitarian for millennia. It's not been this inherent desire for men to rule a certain way and women.
Why do we do this, bro? Can we have like our different disciplines and just leave history alone? People, I don't know what it is about social sciences or feminists or queer theorists or whatever that just want to go back and like idealize the out of all of old societies. It's like, oh no, like when they made the pyramids, the middle pyramid was queer. And didn't you know that like Moses was trans? And didn't you know that Muhammad had like 400 multi-ethnic, multi-racial queer theorists, trans barbarians that ruled as equal, egalitarian? Like, why do we do this? Like, history is like sucked for most parts of it, especially when it comes to not being white and not being a man. Like, why are we pretending otherwise? Jesus, come on.
Biology does not have as much of an effect on the things that we choose to do with our careers, with our life choices, as you think it does. Our closest ancestors are chimps and bonobos. Bonobos are matriarchal, chimps are patriarchal. So, and our previous societies have run egalitarian for millennia. It's not been this inherent desire for men to rule a certain way and women to rule another way. It has been egalitarian, it's been matriarchal, it's been patriarchal because there are things that go into effect, like your situation, your personality, that make you better at doing something than just your biology. I know many quiet, nerdy men that would not be good leaders, and I know many strong women, and vice versa. Like, it does not matter as your testosterone, the hormones you admit, is not going to have as much of an effect as I think you think it does.
I totally think it does. And so that's why, let's getting back to college, since I'm assuming you support women going to college.
Yeah.
Can you explain why there is, when they can freely choose, why there is such a difference in the majors that women choose versus the majors?
What about, I mean, there are explanations for this, or there are theories for this, but what about the fact that so many of these majors have closed the gap, right? Like, lawyers used to be overwhelmingly male. Doctors and people in that profession used to be overwhelmingly male. Like, I think the only one, I don't know if anybody's on an updated chart, when it comes to professions, I think the huge differentiator right now is just like computer related stuff. It used to be like all of the educated professions, but a lot of them have closed the gap where women have taken over, taken the lead, I should say.
that men choose when they get to college.
Well, I think it's also important to note that things are changing and there's like many initiatives to get more women into STEM, to get women into higher paying career fields. When women have been kept out of these fields for so long, it's a slow and steady race to get them there. It's not that women are not choosing them. They're slowly learning that this is okay for them to choose. There's more women in STEM, there's more lawyers, there's more women. Women are making up strides to those positions. So it's not like they're sedentary and they're staying in these humanities or arts fields.
I don't think you're being honest. I think like, if did you go to college?
I mean, I'm in college. I think I know that
women aren't. It's not because they're not pressured. It's because when quite literally they say, "What are you interested in?" Women flock to certain things. They just do. We do. We as a whole do. It tends to be.
Yeah, but why, right? That's the more interesting question is why are some people interested in something? Like some of it is probably biology. Some of it is undoubtedly society, right? Like.
And this is because we are biologically wired. And even when a child is born, when a woman, like a female.
Did you know that women, when they play with toys, they like to play with Barbie dolls, and men like to play with Legos? Whoa.
A child versus a male child. The girls start speaking faster and they speak more words. Just a fact, right? For the rest of their lives. Like my daughter started speaking, and this is not anecdotal, but I'm giving you an anecdotal example of something that is a real fact. So there's just a biological proclivity there that women like communication. And you see that followed all the way as an example.
I've never ever heard that stated that way before. That's because women like communication more. I thought that girls, I don't know why this is the case, but girls just develop faster than boys. I don't know why, but that's just true. Girls mature faster, boys, there's this awkward period in, I don't know, remember the age. Is it like 3rd or 4th grade? There's like this 6 to 12 month period where all the girls get taller than all the boys for like a little bit, and then finally the boys start to age, and then they tend to get to, like for some reason girls just develop a year or 2 or 3 ahead of schedule for boys. I don't know why, but
example into college, women are drawn.
But I don't think it's because they're drawn to communication. I think it's kind of weird.
Toward these careers that are compassionate.
Is it 8th grade? I don't remember what age it is.
Emotional, and communicative, which is why you'll see women flooding journalism. That's why even when you see women that are finding success, they are typically in careers that are communicative and compassionate. Women that will say, I want to do psychology, I want to do children's psychology. And so even at the same time that women are saying that they're running away from their biology, so to speak, they are still exhibiting that they very much believe in these determined biological characteristics that I think are something that's just never going to go away.
Right, but I would also bring up that the way that young girls are given dolls, young boys are put in sports. These things that kids learn at a very early age are very impactful in what children like and pursue in the future. It's not simply that, I don't think there's a biological gene that women like fashion and men don't. That's why we do see men in fashion. That's why there's actually, at the top of all these fashion houses, a lot of men are in successful positions in fashion. The way in which you teach a children to explore creativity and to play, and what we put women in pink rooms and little girls in pink rooms and boys in blue rooms, that has an effect.
So, and I'll tell you why I disagree. And I know because I had my children back to back that there's a blur here. So I never had to separate them and say, you play with this, you play with that. They were growing up with their toys. I mean, 1 year apart, my daughter and my son. They just are interested in different things. And this is one of the...
Wait, I don't understand why people... I would ban you, but you got muted by the bot. I'm not in a bad mood right now, so you're lucky. I mean, there is some merit in acknowledging queer figures of the past as a sign of their perpetual existence. Like Isaac Newton was probably ace, and many other figures might have had different orientations, and seeing that validate, but yeah, queerifying the past beyond what it clearly is can be cringe. I don't think any part of what I said, I don't think any thinking, intelligent, cognizant human being can think that I just said there were no such thing as gay people in the past. What I'm saying is that it's incredibly cringe to pretend that there were these past societies that had wide, broad acceptance of LGBTQ, and they had all of and men and women lived as equal partners through all of history until just very recently when the evil white colonialist patriarchy emerged. That's queer and stupid as fuck. That argument is just dumb.
I think lies of feminism, and when you actually have children, there may be some exceptional child, but I am telling you, my boy's first word was car. He's obsessed with trucks. He's obsessed with cars. I did not do that. I don't like having to answer his questions about cars. I don't like having to answer his questions about trucks because my biological proclivities are not designed. I'm just not feeling passionate about engineering, wanting to know how everything works. You don't recognize that, and this is, I think, one of the worst harms of feminism, because I was a feminist when I was in college, or I at least thought.
And now I'm older, and I don't believe this shit. People say that people's interests are just very selected for certain things, and they can become knowledgeable if they give a fuck about it, okay? When I have women explain to me Finstas and the things that they do to stalk people across other social media accounts or whatever, I saw this one girl explaining that she would how would she do this? That to stalk an ex, she made another account and followed every single person that he followed or that followed him so that she could. It was some next level shit. I'm like, what the fuck? And all of the different weird shit. I'm like, okay, well, but then the same person will be like, oh, I don't know how to switch my email account. It's like, okay, it's because you care about one thing, but you don't care about the other thing. I don't think it's that a woman is inherently tech retarded or can't operate the phone. I think it's just a matter of where the interests are. Same thing with guys, who a guy will be like, oh, I just, I brought up a whole bunch of YouTube tutorials and I figured out how to resolder, this cracked part on this PCB for my GPU, and I actually made my graphics card work again. And then when a woman is like, can you wash the dishes? And the guy's like, I don't know how to put them in the dishwasher, and I don't know what buttons to push to do the settings, and I feel like if I do it, I'm gonna fuck it all up. So sorry, babe. You know, it's like, what? How can you do one and not the other, right? I feel like sometimes people don't give any credit to the selective interests sometimes that we have, where it's not like an interest in tech broadly. These things are like tools to accomplish other things. Not to say that men aren't drawn a little bit more towards like autistic, whatever things, and women, aren't. I'm sure there's some difference there, but I feel like there's way more overlap than people are willing to acknowledge sometimes.
I agreed with the movement because you don't have the family yet. So when they make these arguments that you're making, you think that that's real. You think, oh, well, it's just because you're not giving the child the Barbie doll, that they don't love Barbie dolls. And that's not a reality. We are just quite literally different.
I'm so sorry. Time is up.
Candace will now choose a feminist to debate for 10 minutes on a claim of their choosing. It's going to be one of the last two girls because they were polite and nice. Guaranteed.
I am going to choose Jenny to have a further conversation with because I thought that it was a respectful dialogue and I want people to be able to learn from the differences.
Right, is there one of
and
us too?
I think she is probably the best equipped person to get that done.
Oh, yep. Because when she sat down, oh my God, Candace is so shameless. Do you remember what this woman said when she sat down? I think she literally said, like, I'm sitting down with the assumption that you're doing the best. This is 1 hour 27. Hold on.
That's because they're being...
Hi.
Hi,
I'm Jenny.
Candace.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You said that feminism is
Hold
easier
on.
for men, or is
Wait for
made
it.
things, I think, easier in
things
society
easier
for
for
men.
men. Wait for it.
Now men don't have to commit, and because feminism
just want to say,
kind of insisted on this culture of and hooking
She
up.
starts
and I
with
think that
the
that's has
simp. Hold
been
on.
a net negative for women.
on good faith, I just want to say, I think you're approaching this with like the best interest for women. Like you think that is negative for women and harmful. And I think in some aspects we can agree to that. I do think that there are some aspects of work or OnlyFans or
Like, she's trying to be... No, I'm not faulting her at all. I mean, obviously, it's a good strategy if you want to have a conversation with somebody. I mean, by evidence, by the fact that she got picked again. But it's funny how much of a loser Candace is.
my claim is that I believe feminism is wrongly interpreted as anti-men when it benefits both men and women.
It's a great claim. I like that claim. Thank you. Okay. So I think that in today's environment, when you look at the messaging that's coming out from self-proclaimed feminists, it's very much an F men can't do anything, women can do bad all by themselves sort of colloquial messaging, which I think is harmful to men and to women. I have seen examples of people that I truly do think are more old school who don't do that. But I think in 2025, we've landed on the side of this. It is, I think, rising to a level of just being anti-men, which is not what I think it was supposed to be aspirationally.
Okay. In response to that, I would just like to say, I think that in all ideologies and beliefs, there is a spectrum, right? And on either side, there's going to be a radical point of view. I do understand how it may come across as negative when women say things like, I hate all men, or F men this, F men that. But I'm also, as a woman, not going to fault other women for having that perspective and fear, because unfortunately, our greatest is men. Our greatest harm does come from men. And therefore, when women have experienced violence from men, when women have experienced oppression from men, I'm not going to fault them for feeling that way and expressing such. And I think the onus does rely more on men for acknowledging that these issues do exist. It is harming women. And unfortunately, a lot of men don't listen to women, and they actually would rather listen to other men. While that may seem like negative messaging, if we can get past the idea of, oh, this feels like it's attacking my character, like I feel like feminism is attacking me as a man, then I think that we can have a much more productive discussion and move forward in making sure that this society is better for everybody. And I do believe that feminism benefits men as well. And I think that's also misunderstood and misinterpreted.
Like, this is true of so much stuff, but then the problem is that it ends up getting hijacked by people who like legitimately do feel that way, right? Like, it's annoying to be like, hey, there's this social ideology, and it actually isn't. It's not just about attacking you. It's about making the world better for everybody. And then like 50 people are behind you, and like, yeah, we also believe in that social ideology, but we do hate you, and we are attacking you, and we do want to make the world worse for you because you're a colonizer, oppressor, patriarchal piece of shit. And it's like, okay, well, me, I guess.
In that, when we hear that, instantly we turn off, we don't want to listen, right? But when we look at historically what feminism does, it's actually trying to bring women at an equal level to men, give them the same opportunities and options as men, and also not receive the same judgment that men do for the same actions. And so I believe that when men are exposed to more female role models, when men are exposed to more feminine, more feminist-leaning women, they actually have higher quality of life. They have deeper conversations that they can have with their loved ones. All the men that I know in my life are feminists, and it is because they are feminists that we all have a beautiful community and beautiful friendships.
Yeah, so I would actually even expand it to say that not only is feminism hostile to men, but it's also very hostile to women. And I think you saw a lot of an example of that today, where there seems to be a reaction when a woman says children are beautiful. It's like, oh my God, how dare you say that? Like having a child, and it's like, why is there this?
Like, and she's even strumming them right there. Although I guess she did this to me even when she left my apartment. Like, all conversations should start here. If I ever debate that IDF clip with anybody, which I never will, because none of these guys debate, and they shouldn't. They're smart for not doing it. It's the Trump strategy, right? Don't ever confront somebody directly, because you will always look like a on, right? My first question would be, okay, hold on. Do you think that I support, and do you think that I would ever record myself giving guides on how to hide. Do you honestly, legitimately believe that? 90% of people, if forced to finally say something, are like, okay, maybe not, but it was a bad state, or maybe, right? They're like, why are we starting here? Why would Candace say, like, everyone here is so mad because I said having a baby is beautiful? Who the f said that? Nobody, that's probably not anybody's position here. Like, why? Why would you?
Where there seems
At least wait until they're out of the room to straw man them, you know?
to be a reaction when a woman says children are beautiful. It's like, oh my God, how dare you say that? Like having a child. And it's like, why is there this instant reaction to people that are traditional? And you see that when we have a society which is really kind of being dominated by what I would call like this hyper sexual character, like the Kim Kardashian prototype of feminism, weighed against the other extreme, which would be like the Lena Dunham types who are coming out. Lena Dunham's much more the F men forever. Kim Kardashian is kind of the, when I was saying like, come get everything for free, you know, that sort of a model. And I think both of them.
Didn't you do something similar to Wayne Rabbani, where you asked him point blank if he believed you wanted something horrible? Yeah, it had to do with the, what was it about? He asked me, he tried to make a comparison, something to do with racism. And I asked him, I was like, do you think I'm pro-apartheid, or do you think I'm pro-keeping, Jim Crow or something? Yeah. And I don't think he even answered, but but that's good. But at least I can ask the question and demonstrate the absurdity of the person I'm debating.
That's a good point.
It was such a ridiculously bad faith approach to the conversation. These guys are both clowns.
I was previously unfamiliar with you, and I watched one of your preparation videos. Very disconcerting stuff, I have to say. You were explaining 2 days ago in the discussion about apartheid and how absurd it was, that in your view, Jim Crow was not apartheid. Jim Crow was not apartheid. But Arab states not giving citizenship to Palestinian refugees is apartheid. That's what I meant with my earlier comment about white supremacy.
So my issue, that's great, the white supremacy comment.
And if
hold on, let me respond. Okay? My issue is that I feel like we have jumped on this euphemistic treadmill, and I think that's part of the reason why this conflict will never get solved. Is because on one end, you've got a people who are now convinced internationally that they're victims of apartheid, concentration camp conditions, ethnic cleansing, they're forced to live in an open air prison, with all of these things that are stacked against them, all of these terms that are highly specific, that refer to very precise things. And then when people
I would
like you say that
expect
they
nothing
should,
less from someone who doesn't think Jim Crow is apartheid.
I don't know if
But who does
because
think that Arab
because
states...
Jim Crow is absolutely not apartheid. That's such a ridiculously retarded statement, but...
You're
giving
morally
Palestinian-
loading. For you, apartheid is when racists do bad things.
No,
right?
there's a definition of apartheid.
That's great. But
There's a very
the
clear
specific
definition of
top-down
apartheid.
racial domination enacted through top-down, like federal legislative policies or whatever, means that I don't know if Jim Crow would have qualified for apartheid. That doesn't make it any less. Excuse me, Finkelstein. I'm talking right now. Excuse me, Finkelstein. I'm talking to your friend over here. I don't know if it would have qualified as the crime of apartheid. Just like if Israel were to literally nuke the Gaza Strip, kill 2 million people, I don't know if that would qualify for the crime of
In
genocide.
your eyes, probably not.
I don't. Well, yeah, but because
I think this is the only time he ever actually let me, and I think he was smiling at the end of this, but now I know because he said it on other shows, he just went into this to be a clown. I did the hand thing to make him stop because he was doing it to me and I started doing the hand thing, and then he would actually let me finish when I would do the hand thing to him.
I'm talking right now. Excuse me, Finkelstein. I'm talking to your friend over here. I don't know if it would qualify as the crime of apartheid. Just like if Israel were to literally nuke the Gaza Strip, kill 2 million people, I don't know if that would qualify for the crime of
In
genocide.
your eyes, probably not.
I don't. Well, yeah, but because genocide requires a special intent. I think the issue is instead of. I think this conversation actually is emblematic of the entire conversation. I don't think anything.
Let me finish answering
Well,
Ben
sure, but you
Morris's
accused me of
question.
supporting racism. So yeah,
Well,
I
you
think
did,
I
and you are.
I did. Do you think I support Jim Crow laws?
Look, when
The fact that you can't even answer that.
Like, that's crazy. That's insane.
Honestly,
It doesn't
right?
matter
You
what-
say that 800 civilians
You know
were
what?
killed by Hamas. You said, well, maybe 400 were killed by Israel.
No,
I
I
don't know the
didn't say
number.
that. No, I
Maybe
didn't say that.
you said 400.
No, I didn't
You
say that.
co-signed it.
Like, how you truly, you don't know if I would support Jim Crow? What?
Opinion.
No, I didn't.